Will the Texas Longhorns play in the college football playoff? They should. If Texas goes out and does the same thing Oregon does this week, wins a conference championship, why does Oregon get the nod? I mean, sure, Bo Nix is good, but is Quinn Ewers not? Has Quinn Ewers not gotten the same amount of national attention at times? Quinn Ewers was the darling coming out of high school going to Ohio State. Now at Texas, he's had a great season. And while, look, I'm not a Texas homer. I have come on this show for months now and said that I hope Texas loses every game. That doesn't make me petty. Okay, wait a second. Does it make me petty? Yeah, probably. Yeah, sure. I'll give it to you. But they left the conference. I have no allegiance to a team that's leaving the Big 12, right? But in this situation, let's just look at it objectively. As somebody who's not sitting here actively rooting for Texas to go to the college football playoff, let's just look at it in a way that makes sense. Texas has a much better strength of schedule, a top 10 strength of schedule. Oregon's outside the top 50. Texas has beaten 4 ranked teams if they win on Saturday against Oklahoma State, who's in the top 20. For Oregon, sure, they'll hold another win against Washington. But for Texas, they went on the road and beat Alabama. That's a much better win than anything that Oregon has. Their win against Washington would be a neutral site victory, especially if Alabama beats Georgia on Saturday. Then Texas holds the head-to-head win against Bama, and you're going to sit here and tell me that that doesn't matter. If you sit here and tell me every year in and year out, strength of schedule, beef up your schedule, get in the college football playoff because you played a hard strength of schedule, and then you go with Oregon over Texas, and then you go with Alabama over Texas, that doesn't make a lot of sense. In the year where the SEC is down, but the Big 12 ended up having enough parity that by the end of the season, teams like Kansas State were good, or teams like Texas Tech got into a bowl were sneaky, where a team like Oklahoma was still a player toward the end of the year, still won 10 games, and Texas' lone loss is a neutral site loss to OU on a last-second touchdown. And look, I get it. You could make the big case of if you're a Texas fan, you can't complain. Just beat Oklahoma, we're not having this conversation. That's true. Just beat Oklahoma, we're not having this conversation. But that didn't happen. They didn't beat Oklahoma. So now we have to have this conversation, and the conversation should be full stop. Texas has the resume to go to the college football playoff. They beat Alabama on the road. They might as well. What the college football playoff committee is telling me is Texas would have been better off playing Western Carolina. They could have just played Abilene Christian that week, and it would have mattered the exact same of beating Alabama on the road, because we're not talking about the biggest win in the country this season. Texas going on the road to knock off Alabama. It mattered then. It was huge then, but now nobody wants to talk about it. Now, that was back when Deion Sanders was ruling college football. That was so long ago, we don't even need to talk about it. Then why did Texas play the game? Then why do you tell me that strength of schedule matters? Then why would any team schedule any tough game when teams outside the top 50 in strength of schedule are being rewarded, but when Texas, again, a team that I have no allegiance to, is being held out of the college football playoff for what? Winning games? For beating ranked team, for having a good strength of schedule, for going on the road against Alabama and winning? And their one loss coming against 10-win Oklahoma. They didn't lose a sneaky, sleepy game like Ohio State does to Purdue every other year. They didn't lose to Iowa State. They didn't lose to Kansas State. They didn't lose to a team that's outside of the top 25. They lost to Oklahoma, who gets so much respect. Now I get it. I get it. Texas has not re-earned that brand. It's been so long. And there's been so much conversation of whether or not Texas is back or not back. And are they really good? Are they fraudulent? Did they just win a Big 12 that was down? I get that being the national rhetoric, but I think it's a lazy national rhetoric. Look at the analytics. Look at a defense that is the best in the country against the ground game. Look at an offense that is so dynamic, they don't have to ask Quinn Ewers to do too much because they can ground it and pound it with any number of running. But it doesn't matter who gets hurt. They're still great on the ground. The receiving core, the receivers outside from A.D. Mitchell to Xavier Worthy, and the list goes on. But you're telling me that, I don't even know we should put Texas in the conversation of going to a college football playoff at this point in the juncture. Why? Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan. I mean, the fact that I've saw a promo about Ohio State was a way they can backdoor their way in. What are we talking about? Texas should have as good a shot as anybody. The resume is better than Oregon's. And if Texas has a Power 5 conference championship, then give them a nod. Florida State at 13-0, let them in. Fine. They're undefeated. If Georgia loses to Alabama, let Alabama in, sure. But by God, Texas better be there. They beat Alabama on the road. They beat them in Tuscaloosa. Put Michigan in there, sure. But I don't want to see promos about Ohio State. I know that Texas fans are having to conjure up ways for UT to get in. They have to create these funky, if this happens and this happens and this happens, and Texas gets in. You shouldn't have to. The resume is there. What I'm being told right now is that if Texas beats Oklahoma on Saturday, like they should, whether it's by 35, 13, or 3, what that resume says, what the strength of schedule says, what the committee says, that we go by this. We need a strength of schedule. We need to see your conference schedule. We need to be impressed. And now, clock's about to strike midnight, and it's not really about resume. It's more about who we dislike. It's more about who we see and who's the best team. By what? That's that. Texas, welcome to a situation that a lot of Big 12 teams have faced in the past. That is just being pissed off at the college football playoff because it is madness. It's maddening. Texas belongs in the college football playoff. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. Let's play ball this weekend. The last one of this Big 12 era. Oklahoma State and Texas. Let's send out Texas the right way. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.